Today, on Military Insider, we're diving deep beneath the jungles of Vietnam to explore one of the most ingenious military engineering feats in modern warfare. A sprawling underground network that stretched for hundreds of miles and changed the course of history. Beneath Vietnam's dense jungle lay a hidden underground world created during one of America's most controversial wars. While U.S. forces dominated the air and surface, their enemy built a subterranean system that was nearly impossible to defeat. The Ho Chi tunnels formed a complete underground city with hospitals, living spaces, kitchens, workshops, and command centers directly beneath American troops. This network became a masterclass in guerrilla strategy. We'll explore how the tunnels were built, how they operated, why they were so effective, and the terrifying missions faced by tunnel rats whose experiences reshaped modern military tactics. The origins. How it all began. The tunnel systems didn't appear overnight, and they weren't originally designed to fight Americans. The history of these underground networks actually dates back to the late 1940s, during Vietnam's struggle for independence from French colonial rule. Vietnamese fighters, known as the Viet Minh at that time, began digging rudimentary tunnels in the Ho Chi district, located about 40 miles northwest of Saigon, which is now Ho Chi Minh City. These early tunnels served basic purposes, providing shelter from French artillery bombardment and creating hidden routes for moving supplies and troops. The initial tunnel construction was crude and simple. Farmers and villagers used basic hand tools, baskets, and whatever implements they could find. They dug shallow passages that connected villages and provided escape routes when French forces conducted sweeps through the area. However, when the Americans arrived in the 1960s to support South Vietnam, everything changed. The North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces recognized that they faced an enemy with unprecedented technological superiority. American forces possessed advanced weaponry, complete air dominance, artillery support, and sophisticated surveillance equipment. Fighting conventionally would mean certain defeat. The decision was made to expand the tunnel systems dramatically, transforming them from simple hiding spots into a comprehensive military infrastructure that could support long-term operations. What started as scattered, disconnected passages evolved into an interconnected network that would eventually span over 150 miles, with some estimates suggesting the total length exceeded 250 miles when all branches and side tunnels were included. The engineering marvel. The construction of these tunnels represents an extraordinary feat of engineering, especially considering the primitive tools and harsh conditions under which they were built. Understanding how they were created helps us appreciate the dedication and ingenuity of those who constructed them. The tunnels were typically dug at 3 different levels, creating multiple layers of protection and functionality. The first level sat approximately 3 to 4 meters below the surface. The second level descended to about 6 to 8 meters, and the deepest level reached depths of up to 12 meters underground. This multi-layered design served multiple purposes. The upper levels could be quickly accessed for surprise attacks or rapid escapes, while the deeper levels provided protection from bombing raids and heavy artillery. The depth also made detection significantly more difficult, as most ground-penetrating equipment of that era couldn't effectively identify structures more than a few meters down. The soil composition in Ho Chi proved both challenging and advantageous. The laterite clay, which turns rock hard when exposed to air, provided natural structural support, allowing tunnels to remain stable without extensive reinforcement. However, this same clay was extremely difficult to excavate, requiring immense physical effort. Workers used pointed bamboo stakes, hoes, and small hand tools to chip away at the clay, removing it in baskets that were carefully dispersed to avoid detection. Engineers designed the tunnels with remarkably sophisticated features. Ventilation shafts were cleverly disguised and strategically positioned to allow air circulation while preventing smoke from cooking fires from being visible above ground. These shafts often emerged under thick vegetation, or were designed to disperse air output over wide areas, making them nearly impossible to spot from the air or ground level. Water traps were installed at various intervals throughout the tunnel systems. These U-shaped sections of tunnel would fill with water, creating barriers that prevented gases from American smoke grenades from penetrating deeper into the tunnels, while also confusing search dogs that might pick up scents. The entrances themselves were masterpieces of camouflage. Trapdoors were constructed from materials that matched the surrounding environment perfectly. Some were disguised as termite mounds, others hidden beneath leaves and jungle debris. The doors were designed to be incredibly heavy, often requiring significant strength to lift from above, but could be easily pushed open from below using simple leverage mechanisms. Tunnel dimensions were intentionally kept small, typically measuring only about 80 centimeters wide and 120 centimeters high. This wasn't just to reduce the amount of excavation required. The Vietnamese forces recognized that their average fighter was significantly smaller than the typical American soldier. By keeping the tunnels claustrophobically tight, they created an environment where they held every advantage. Americans would have to crawl through these spaces, making themselves vulnerable and limiting their ability to maneuver or fight effectively. Life underground. Living in these tunnels wasn't simply a matter of hiding during combat operations. For many Viet Cong fighters and sympathetic villagers, the tunnels became their primary residence for extended periods, sometimes for months or even years. The conditions were absolutely brutal by any standard. Imagine spending your days and nights in near total darkness, with only occasional candlelight or small oil lamps for illumination. The air was thick, humid, and stifling, with temperatures often exceeding 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Oxygen levels were perpetually low, causing headaches, dizziness, and constant fatigue. Despite these hardships, the tunnel inhabitants created surprisingly comprehensive living facilities. Sleeping chambers were carved out along the main passages, providing just enough space for a person to lie down. These chambers often housed multiple individuals, with space at such a premium that people would sleep in shifts. Medical facilities, though primitive by modern standards, were established in larger chambers. Doctors and nurses performed surgeries by candlelight, treating everything from gunshot wounds to illnesses caused by the harsh living conditions. Medical supplies were scarce, forcing practitioners to improvise with traditional medicines. Cooking fires were essential for preparing rice and other foods, but smoke could easily betray the tunnel location to enemy forces. The Vietnamese solved this problem by creating elaborate chimney systems that channeled smoke through long, winding passages before releasing it far from the cooking area. Command centers and meeting rooms allowed military leaders to plan operations, coordinate attacks, and maintain communication with other units. Maps were drawn on walls or pieces of cloth, and messengers would memorize orders before making dangerous journeys through the tunnels or above ground to deliver them. The American response. When American forces first discovered the extent of the tunnel networks, they faced a dilemma unlike anything they'd encountered in previous conflicts. Conventional military tactics proved largely ineffective against an enemy that could literally disappear underground within seconds. Initial attempts to neutralize the tunnels involved sealing entrances, pumping tear gas into known openings, or demolishing sections with explosives. These methods achieved limited success because the tunnels were so extensive that destroying one section rarely impacted overall operations, and the Vietnamese could quickly dig new passages or reopen sealed entrances. The military brass realized that if they wanted to truly understand and combat this underground threat, they needed soldiers willing to go into the tunnels themselves. This gave birth to one of the most dangerous and psychologically demanding roles in the Vietnam War: the tunnel rats. These volunteers were specifically selected for certain characteristics. They needed to be small in stature to navigate the tight passages, physically fit enough to crawl for extended periods, and mentally tough enough to handle the extreme claustrophobia and constant danger. Most importantly, they needed nerves of steel, as every inch they crawled forward could be their last. Tunnel rats typically worked in pairs or small teams. They'd strip down to minimal equipment, carrying only a pistol, a flashlight, a knife, and perhaps some rope. The reasoning was practical. Inside the tunnels, rifles were too cumbersome to use effectively, and the less equipment you carried, the easier it was to move and escape if necessary. The job description was terrifying. A tunnel rat would enter a dark, unknown passage with no idea what lay ahead. Around any corner could be an armed enemy fighter, a booby trap, a snake, or a dead end that meant backing up through hundreds of feet of cramped tunnel. The Viet Cong had installed countless traps specifically designed to kill or maim anyone entering their tunnels. Punji stakes coated with feces to cause infection, tripwires connected to grenades, and hidden pits containing venomous snakes or scorpions. The psychological warfare was intense on both sides. Sometimes, tunnel rats would encounter Viet Cong fighters in the darkness, leading to terrifying close-quarters combat fought with pistols, knives, or bare hands in spaces so tight that both combatants could barely move. Other times, they'd hear voices or movement in the darkness ahead, but couldn't determine if it was friend or foe, civilian or soldier. Despite the dangers, tunnel rats gathered invaluable intelligence. They discovered weapon caches, food supplies, documents revealing enemy plans, and the overall structure of the tunnel systems. They also occasionally rescued prisoners of war and disrupted Viet Cong operations by destroying supplies or collapsing critical tunnel sections. The casualty rate among tunnel rats was significant, though exact figures remain classified. Many suffered not just physical wounds, but lasting psychological trauma. Post-traumatic stress disorder was common among survivors, who often reported nightmares about being trapped underground for decades after returning home. Strategic impact and famous operations. The tunnel networks played major roles in key military operations, especially around Ho Chi Minh, where their closeness to American bases caused constant frustration. At Dong Du, a huge U.S. headquarters was unknowingly built directly above an active system, allowing Viet Cong fighters to gather intelligence, conduct raids, and disappear underground. During the 1968 Tet Offensive, the tunnels enabled troops to move undetected, strike urban targets, and retreat instantly, shocking American leadership and damaging public support for the war. Multiple U.S. operations tried to destroy the tunnels, including the massive 1966 Operation Crimp, but the networks always endured. American forces later used dogs, radar, roam plows, water, gas, and explosive ignition tactics, yet the tunnels remained functional. Their persistence forced the U.S. to commit huge resources while giving the Viet Cong a powerful strategic advantage against a technologically superior enemy. The human cost and legacy. The human cost stretched far beyond combat. For people living in and around Ho Chi Minh, daily life meant bombings, searches, and constant danger. Villages were destroyed if suspected of hiding tunnel entrances, forcing civilians into impossible choices between the Viet Cong and American forces. Chemical defoliants like Agent Orange caused long-term health damage, and bomb craters and unexploded ordnance still remain. American veterans, especially tunnel rats, carried deep psychological scars, suffering from claustrophobia and chronic anxiety long after returning home. Today, a small portion of the Ho Chi tunnels has been widened for visitors, but the original passages were far smaller and far more suffocating. These underground systems remain a powerful reminder of human resilience and the severe costs of war, offering military strategists important lessons about guerrilla tactics and the challenges of fighting a determined, adaptable opponent. The Vietnam War's secret tunnels remain a powerful symbol of asymmetric warfare's potential and limitations, a reminder of war's human cost, and a testament to what people can accomplish when survival demands innovation and sacrifice. If you found this deep dive into military history fascinating, make sure to hit that subscribe button and and ring the notification bell so you never miss another episode of Military Insider. We bring you untold stories, forgotten battles, and the incredible accounts of courage and sacrifice that shaped our world. Drop a comment below telling us what military topic you'd like us to cover next. Whether it's secret operations, forgotten heroes, or engineering marvels like these tunnels. And if you enjoyed this video, share it with anyone who loves military history. Thanks for watching Military Insider, and we'll see you in the next operation.